Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a very exciting session on the Crypto 2024 Outlook brought to you by Paklaunch and the unstoppable Ali Fahad. I don't know how he does it. In preparation for this session, I came across a really funny tweet about Bitcoin. It said Bitcoin has now crossed $45,000, which means every annoying person you know is rich now and won't stop talking about it. And only part of that is true because crypto is on an upswing, but we've not gathered three annoying friends. We've gathered three of the most interesting Pakistanis in the world operating in the crypto space. And we're going to get their insights on the crypto 2024 outlook, about buying plots in DHA with Bitcoin and what it feels to not just bet 10% of your portfolio on crypto, but your entire career and your identity. So it's going to be a very interesting session. I want to quickly introduce our guests. We've got Hassan Ahmed, who is the country director for Coinbase in Singapore. He was previously the CEO of Coins.ph, a leading mobile wallet and cryptocurrency platform in the Philippines. He also happens to be my brother-in-law's roommate in Howard, which is not a story for this conversation, but would love to know what my brother-in-law was up to. But that's a conversation for another day. We've also got Abdul Rafay with us, who is a serial entrepreneur. He is a co-founder and CEO of Zignaly, an open trading platform for cryptocurrencies that has raised $50 million to provide tools and resources for traders. So we're very excited to chat with you, Rafi, today. And then we've got the cooler Bilal here. Bilal bin Saqib is a social entrepreneur, passionate about innovation. He is the founder of Cloud Global, a marketing consultancy firm specializing in developing and implementing go-to-market strategies for Web3 companies. He's also a PR and growth lead for Ethereum Barcelona, which is a community-led passion project for the Ethereum blockchain. Good luck to you on that. I've got a lot of money in Ethereum. So wish you all the best on that. Well, thank you, gents, for making time for us today. I want to get started by talking about the moment that we're in the year ahead. 2024 is the 15-year anniversary for the Bitcoin. It's sort of really the emergence of cryptocurrencies, and we're in an interesting moment right now. 2024 promises to both be an exciting year as well as a challenging year. And so I'm curious to get each of yours' take on what do you think will be the driving factors for both price and volume when it comes to cryptocurrencies this year. And Hassan, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll come to Rafi and then to Bilal. But just curious, Hassan, for your take on what you think will drive prices and volume this year in 2024 in the crypto market.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having us, everyone. Ali, Paklaunch team, and thanks for moderating, Bilal. So, I think this is a different tone and different time to be talking about crypto than if we were doing this in 2023. So lots has changed, and we'll talk about some of the more immediate and near-term things that are going on. But maybe let's just start by kind of starting with like a zoom out and thinking about where we are in the broader sort of arc, right? So you're right, like we're 15 years in, and broadly, I think what we've seen is if you look at like a logarithmic adoption scale, the blockchain technology seems to be doing what I would call pretty well and on track. So if you even compare against sort of what internet adoption metrics look like, it's probably not that far off, right? And it doesn't need to kind of rhyme exactly, but I think that it is important to just keep in mind, hey, like these things do tend to go exponential, especially when there's network effects involved, and so we tend to underestimate what we're going to long run, overestimate what we're going to do in the short run. But broadly, I'd say I think we're on a good path overall. There's about 450 million ish kind of holders around the world. That number seems to just progressively increase. It accelerates during the bull markets, and it's been okay, steady during kind of this past bear market. Now, in terms of kind of cycles, right? So this could be the third or the fourth or the fifth cycle, depending on how you think about maybe the first one. But generally, again, right, like these cycles are on top of the secular adoption trend. Also, is sort of going somewhat as predicted, almost a little bit too much to a fault, in terms of if you compare against kind of sort of the Bitcoin halving and how like things happened before it and what things happen after it. you think that this programmatic supply shock is a very well-known event, but just for whatever reason, we tend to kind of glom around like this specific event every time for these cycles. So kind of coming back in, right? So look, for this year, what I'd say is broadly, it feels like we're through the worst, right? Like I'd say like November of 2022, like, a few days sort of after FTX, that really seemed like that was just, peaked or like, the complete kind of trough of despair, and felt like nothing would ever happen. But the one thing I will say that for this cycle versus last ones is, I think even at that time, no one really said, hey, like crypto's going to go away forever. It just, is much more a narrative of how big is this thing going to get, how long will it take? Whereas if I think back to my sort of third cycle, it was like after 2017 or so, like it was like, okay, we're done, right? Maybe it's an experiment and it's just not coming back. There's just too much that's happened since then in the last few years for this to be, that like existentially threatened anymore. So, we'll get more into, okay, what's happening this year, in the next coming quarters, but maybe I'll just start there and pass it along.
That's a fascinating insight to place this year into a historical context. Rafi, if I could give it to you next, would love to hear your perspective on 20.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, I think once again, thank you to Paklaunch and Ali for organizing and for you to host it today. Yeah, I mean, like as Hassan said, I think the worst is over, hopefully. I think it was over even a few months back. And yeah, I mean, like, uh, absolutely. I remember when 2017, after that crazy hike in early 2018, when we saw that Korea ban and China ban coming along, and then, hard crashes and, liquidity pullouts and everything. The narrative was that, US will ban the Bitcoin and, it will never come back. But I think, yes, even despite all the troubles around the FTX and all Alamidas and Three Arrows and everyone, I don't we didn't see anyone saying at all that crypto is no more. Because but it was just matter of how fast would it take to come back, and which shows that how far we have come along in terms of the adoption. I personally think that one thing which will change the profile of crypto this year is the adoption as an investment. I still think that the as you rightly said in the beginning, that every annoying person is potentially rich. There's a reason that the people in crypto are annoying, because people think of crypto as something funny and something as an experiment, right? Which is not exactly true anymore. It's a proper investment class with deep liquidity. Like if you examine the market now, it is not like just any the previous runs anymore, where you cannot even trade with $10 million. It's not the case anymore. It's far deeper, far mature, with deeply integrated on and off chain off rails. Better market making, better exchanges, better regulation. So one thing which will drive, I think, volume and price this year, it would be uh, the adoption as an investment, which I think we will definitely talk about ETF in our session. But I think this is what happened with gold as well and other asset classes, that once they came into mainstream, other than their normal utility as an investment class. So going into the masses right now, if you talk about crypto, the biggest problem has been how to buy it, how to store it. Okay, that's like the key thing. Barring one or two exchanges, no one really want to trust exchanges with all what has happened. But with these solutions like ETFs coming in, I think there will be a lot of volume and value coming into the industry. It will mature a lot. Volatility will come down. You will have more serious people and less vocal, annoying people in the industry as well. So yeah, I think these are the couple of things I'm looking forward to in 2024.
Thank you, Rafi. That's very insightful. Bilal, would love to get your take on this.
Yeah, I'll definitely second what both of them said. I think we ended 2023 on a very high note. I think Bitcoin gained around 150% since its all-time low, from I think 16,000 something. And 2024, I believe will has a lot of significant events coming up, and of course the spotlight is on the ETFs. And I believe that we are kind of underestimating the impact that that might have. Imagine that the investment possibilities this will open up for people who were kind of hesitant to invest in crypto because of the technical or the regulatory reasons will, now perhaps find Bitcoin as a legit investment option and investment from all the bigger boys like the likes of Saudis and the other financial institutions. And I also think that people are kind of again underestimating the impact of ETFs, because if history is to guide us well, gold is worth studying as a parallel, and all of this again will accelerate the adoption. And hence why I see a lot of new people being onboarded this year, especially with the real world asset market getting a lot of traction.
That's fascinating. So a lot of consensus being built here, which is not really a surprise. But I want to now sort of zoom out of this and talk about this in the context of the global macroeconomic situation. 2024 is going to be an interesting year. Interest rates are going to begin to come down again. There's a potential recession that's still on the horizon, the most anticipated recession, I guess, in our living history. And then there is the 2024 US elections also coming up, and also, well, Pakistan elections and a bunch of other elections happening all over the world. How do you see the global macroeconomic situation impacting sort of the outlook for cryptocurrencies in 2024, and how much of a factor will they be? Hassan, again, if I could start with you to get your point of view on this.
Yeah, so I think, there's a lot that's discussed about macro broadly, for not just crypto, and I think there's consensus views, and then there's a lot, around it. I think broadly where the markets are telegraphing right now is that definitely, there's cuts expected. There's some dissonance as to, how many cuts are coming in. I think the kind of the broad narrative again is we're starting to thaw out on, this extremely elevated interest rates, and that's going to be more benign for like an investment climate. I think where this bridges over to crypto is it's still, seen for the most part as a risk on asset. And so when risk capital comes back in, looking for higher returns and higher yields, just outside of what treasuries are yielding right now, that inflow of liquidity is beneficial for long duration assets, like high growth tech stocks and crypto as well. So I think that's sort of the starting point where everyone's kind of aiming towards. The point about like elections is also US elections is also an important one. I think then you can sort of overlay then your view on, okay, depending on what you think is going to happen, but generally politicians like to give out candy during election years. And so, how does that sort of, again, factor into, how kind of both parties are thinking about this, but generally should be good for consumers. The flip side is, looking at like inflation and price of oil, like those are more important than just kind of investment assets. So that's, I think, where the detraction for like aggressively easing off in interest rates is not, being factored in. But it's all to say that I think that, macro is becoming a tailwind through the rest of the year.
That's very interesting. And Rafi, curious for your thoughts on this, and maybe I'm going to add like the geopolitical context to yours as well, with sort of a multipolar world,
Yeah.
Russia, China, US. Like, how does that also impact all of this?
Yeah, I think the investments are driven out of a lot of mood of the US investors. I always say that, because that's where the largest chunk of the money is. Like, yes, China is catching up, East is catching up, India is catching up, Middle East is coming a lot into cryptos. Like if you go to Dubai and if like it's all about cryptos now. Every second big shot you talk to and he's in Dubai. But I think even now the narrative drives from the US, and we've seen it many times because of the extent of money we are talking about. Um, I think again we'll have to look at the data, but I think election years can generally be good for the stock markets and overall markets. And I think there are few alignments here. Number one, I think we are looking at the rate cut potentially. Okay, and that is good for the markets. If you look at the stock markets, like if you forget the crypto market and if you look at the stock markets, you see that the tech, the tech shares, barring the top ones, The other ones, the potential growth ones, are yet to rally properly. Okay, and I think once we see a clear sight on the rate cut, I think a lot of money is going to flow in, which is on the sidelines right now, and which is actually looking to get back into the market, into the right shares. It will come there, and I think some of it will start flowing into cryptos properly as well. What I'm seeing in crypto right now is a recycling of the old money parked inside the crypto, getting redeployed again. We're not really seeing those ether printers right now yet. When $1 billion a day getting printed for 10 days in a row, like we barely seen a couple of $1 billion worth of USDT getting printed in a month maybe, or it's pacing up a bit. So when we start seeing that, that means the new money is coming in, and you can gradually see the impact directly on the Bitcoin, which will translate onto the others. So I think it's all related. I think there was a time when we used to try and create this hypothesis, that the crypto market is somehow can operate as an outlier to the stock market, and it used to sound cool when the market cap was under 50 or 60 or $100 billion. But now with 1.6, $1.7 trillion market cap, I think the global sentiments directly affect the crypto market, at least in the short run as well. So you know geopolitically speaking as well, I think there's a lot of misconception about China that might can be a potential topic for another chat. But I think China is also coming back pretty strong in the game. If you look at Hong Kong as a proxy, for example, or Singapore as a proxy, I think that the way they are moving, and I'll reference to the Singapore. So there was an event of Token 2049 in Singapore just in September, right? And it was not a good market at that point in time. It was bear market, but we were fascinated when we went there. It was one of the largest events I have ever been to in cryptos. Okay. And the amount of excitement that was there was incredible. It was not like it was already a bull market. Now in a bull market, you go to any event and everything is buzzing, right? But back in September, it was a crap show, in the market. But that event itself showed you that the potential that Asia has. So I don't think we can underestimate Asia. And I don't think that there will be like, I don't see that fight happening anytime soon. That okay, I want Bitcoin, so the other party doesn't want Bitcoin.
Mhm.
I think everyone can be on the same page here. It's still very small when it comes to that. Let it reach at least 10, $15 trillion market before this global fight for dominance starts happening. So my overall view on the 2024 is that I see more good stories, especially if the ETF is approved. I think it will. I mean, again, I think people are underestimating the impact in the long run. And, unfortunately, people in Web3 don't even understand how ETFs work. But I think, it will help a lot. So I think the 2024 will be a lot more positive year than any potentially year we have seen in the crypto history.
Wow. Okay. This conversation just keeps getting more bullish. But I love this. And also the other point is like we'll all sink or swim together, like our entire portfolio. So everything is interlinked. That's some interesting myths that you're busting here, Rafe. Bilal, over to you. How do you see sort of the global macroeconomic situation playing out?
Yeah, I think 2024 we will see further maturation of the crypto market again towards institution investors. And I think, with the high stake political events and global tensions, we've seen increased in market volatility, which perhaps is, the best thing for crypto. These price swings would lure in more retail investors, attracted towards again. So, towards cryptocurrency. So I think, hence why everything, all the stars are aligning together for us to see one of the biggest bull run ever.
All right. Okay. So let me ask you a question in the context of Pakistan and crypto. So typically Pakistani investors are looked at as being very risk averse, very safe, park your entire life savings in a defense plot and just sort of, live through that. But now we've seen like, because of currency control and things like that, like people even buying and selling defense plots in crypto. Just curious for your take on sort of the Pakistani investor sentiment towards crypto, and also what you think the Pakistani government can do to incentivize more of it potentially. Rafi, this time I want to start with you. Maybe you're a very bullish person, so when I talk about the Pakistani government, maybe I can dull some of that. But talk to me about crypto in Pakistan.
Uh, yeah, so I mean, there is a positive part and the negative part when it comes to Pakistan. Um, okay, so Pakistan has a lot of people with money in Pakistan have a rental mindset, and which denies any kind of volatility when it comes to that. And this is the reason that even if you look at our stock market locally, it's not as developed as it should have been. We are trading all the time. We are trading at the lowest, regional PEs, and the reason is simple, that it's just not mainstream. People think of a stock market as something for rich people to make money. Like it's not looked at it that way. And crypto is no. I mean, so there are two reasons, right? One is lack of adoption to the volatility, and the number two point is lack of patience as well. um, People think of crypto as a go get rich overnight schemes. Unfortunately, I live in Pakistan, right, for last and I've been in crypto for 8 9 years now, and I don't talk to anyone about cryptos locally, to be very honest. I People ask me, especially when the bull market, phone keeps ringing, people keep coming popping in, where to put in money, why to put in money. I don't answer, because the reason is simple, that the day Bitcoin starts going down, like maybe today, like it's down 5%, uh, you know uh, the next call would be, oh, I bought it at 45,000, it's 43,400. My father is asking me where the money is, what should I do? And that's a real problem I'm telling you right now. So I think mindset is slightly needs to change. But one thing very interesting that has happened, started in Pakistan, and again, this is not something that we should endorse. It's the adoption of crypto as a payment. Okay. And that has picked up like anything. Okay. People are paying for plots, property, cars, buying land. It's crazy how people living in Pakistan or living outside Pakistan are actually making payments in USDT, and it has become so common. Like, I know so many people around, and this is very interesting, because once you get into it, even if it's USDT or Bitcoin or whatever, that's where the adoption starts, right? Um, what should I mean, how should the people in Pakistan think about it? I mean, honestly speaking, number one, there is no legit way to get larger money um, into crypto in Pakistan right now, unfortunately. So obviously, I mean, anyone who is doing it using PKR is using some method which is not prescribed by the government. Um, so I think one hope, one 1% chance hope that I have with the upcoming elections and government is that potentially they might look at regularize the whole thing. There is a lot of tax element out there that they can capture on. There's a lot of trap liquidity that they can tap on by doing that. People are already into it, so um, in Pakistan, I think if people really want to get into that mindset, they need to understand that it's not that they leave everything else and that they get into crypto. No, you have to balance your portfolio out. You started by saying that, we have given our lives into crypto. Yes, but that doesn't mean that my 100% portfolio or wealth is in crypto. It's not. It cannot be. It cannot be in any single asset class, right? I think this is how the people in Pakistan need to start thinking about it. They have to ease into it. They have to understand that what Bitcoin is. Yeah, you cannot start investing into something without understanding it. Otherwise, you cannot stand the volatility that it brings on table. It can be good, it can be bad, but there is no way that you can do it without understanding. Patience is important. If you buy a plot in DHA, for example, you wait for years, right, before it starts giving you the right kind of return. If you get in early into some society, in Islamabad or in somewhere else, you know, you wait for the right time to sell it. Similarly, for crypto, it's neither hold for life, it's neither get overnight rich scheme. But I think it is something that is just an asset class. Treat it like that. Make it part of your portfolio. Accept the volatility, and I think it can make a lot of money for everyone.
That's fascinating and very, very insightful, the nuance that you shared here. Bilal, I'm going to come to you and your sort of understanding and viewpoint of the Pakistani investor, and also looking at it from the Pakistani government lens, if you've got any recommendations for them.
I think we can perhaps divide this into three segments: the Pakistani investor, the Pakistani government, and the Pakistani youth. I think for the Pakistani investors who are essentially, still saints and uncles, it's a double Shah scheme, where you can't touch it, you can't feel it. However, I can see my property, where the corner plot is or the plaza is. So I think that saint, that investor has to be educated and informed. And I think with the sort of returns that they want, it's the perfect market for them. But I think it's just the appetite, where, and the appetite and perhaps the confidence. Um, and I think there could be a lot of work done there from the government point of view. And perhaps I think this again boiled down to the fact that we don't believe in the concept of serendipity. As unfortunately in staying within Pakistan, we don't believe in that, and hence why we are deprived of sharing ideas and deprived of sharing opportunities and other investment opportunities as well. Anyways, so I think that is for the Pakistani investors, where they see it as a Ponzi still get quick rich scheme. And then, for the government, I think we can take a leaf out of the book of what India has done, and monitor it very closely and perhaps use that as a sounding board. Um, and I am sometimes shocked to see the amount of adoption actually crypto has in Pakistan. We rank in, I think, top 3 on the global adoption list, around approximately 14 million people having. Of course, and why not? With any country that has high inflation has high adoption, because USDT is used as the resource to hedge against inflation. Um, and I think there, especially the youth of Pakistan, they are involved in a lot of ways, in different, airdrops, and the amount of knowledge and adoption the youth has is amazing, because they're always looking to find the next opportunity to make some, $5, $10, $20. So I think there is a lot happening, even though it looks like the sea, where you see it from the top and it's all calm, but there's a lot happening underneath that. And we'll need a whole different session to different, to talk about, how the government can help, how these, big states can be put together, and how especially the youth, which is majority, can be equipped or facilitated, so we are not again left behind on this technology.
Very interesting. Hassan, I'm going to ask you this question with a twist. I'm going to zoom out sort of to the global regulatory landscape, and maybe take your viewpoint, from where you sit. How do you see the regulatory landscape for crypto evolving in the short term and the long term? Do you feel like, the doomsday scenarios are over and now, it is an established asset class that that the regulatory landscape will not tighten significantly, or what's your viewpoint on the regulatory landscape evolving over the next couple of years?
Yeah, let me also just connect it to a couple of things that Raf and Bilal also said. So I completely agree about demarcating between sort of investors and users, because the Pakistani adoption metrics are extremely high, and I think it's just a testament to, again, how tech forward our youth is, and they know that they want it and they know how to get to it. And related to that is stable coins as like a store of value and a transfer of value is also a very kind of killer use case, right? Like that, we know that stable coins have product market fit, and much more so in the global south than in these more developed markets. Actually, I think USDT on Tron. So the irony is that USDT on Tron is probably done more for banking the unbanked and financial inclusion than, to be honest, like whatever, like Coinbase and kind of many of these other more established well-regulated exchanges, blue chip exchanges might say. And that's because these things are just more fluid and more borderless, and people understand how to get to them when there's enough incentive. So that's just the world that we live in. I think Bilal, to the point about like India, that's a really important comp for Pakistan as well, because I'd say like India, like mainland China and the US are probably, in the bigger scheme of things, unfortunately, important, and also not haven't provided like direct regulatory clarity yet. But one thing to note is that India actually has moved to a registration regime for local VAS. So at least they're wanting local VAS to register and then have AML controls. That isn't like translated into a full-blown licensing regime yet, because RBI is still, you know, a little bit against it. But there is an industry association that's like working in concert to move these things, and I do think there's probably some things in Pakistan that we can do as well on the policy front. Now, stepping out and to the direct question of like global, so this is the interesting part, right? So despite all of the negative headlines, again, FTX, all these kind of centralized lenders and this and that, in the last year and a half, we ran this survey and we saw that 83% of G20 countries and major financial hubs have now provided either a direct licensing framework or are like imminently landing towards it. So some of these landmark legislations like MiCA in the EU, or even kind of closer to home again with Hong Kong sort of reopening, as Rafay mentioned, and providing kind of reg clarity. Those are very important events to pay attention to, because what it says is many of these regulators understand that, hey, it's just better to provide like, you know, a level playing field and allow users, companies to register and get licenses and come in through the front door. Otherwise, you will have more FTXs in the future. So I think many of the smart regulators who really have spent time on understanding this technology understand that there's potential, and they want to balance innovation and consumer protection at the same time. Singapore has been, you know, much further ahead of the curve, but all these other jurisdictions are also, you know, coming pretty fast. Like Dubai and UAE are also like another great example of a hub that's moving. UK is one which was anti-crypto for a while, and now they're coming back in the game. Japan had a licensing framework early on. They had a bunch of hacks, so they got cold feet, but they also want to be a Web3 hub now. So it's pretty interesting from what we see, you know, because we talk to regulators all around the world. We're, you know, multi-jurisdictional. And they really are, many of them are wanting to, you know, just get this thing done now, because crypto's become too big to ignore.
Fascinating. Rafi, I want to come to you on the regulatory point, but I want to ask you specifically about spot ETFs and the impact that that will have, because you've mentioned it a couple of times. You've said, you know, it's underrated, the impact that that can have. But do you also feel like some of that is priced in already in sort of the bull run that crypto has had? So talk to me a little bit about why you think spot ETFs are such a big deal, and whether you think it's priced in already or it's going to get in.
Sure. So no, I don't think it's priced in at all, not even 5%. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not talking about 1 month or 2 month time horizon. I'm talking about a 10-year time horizon. So number one, I think cryptos, yes, they have rallied, but if you look at the global market, they have all made the new highs. Okay, stock markets across the world, even in Pakistan, well, across the world actually, the stock markets have made new high, and Bitcoin is still, I think, 40% below its previous high. So no, I think what we have seen so far in Bitcoin is an easing rally on a narrative, and I think on some ease of supply of money, but not really a bull run. Bull run is yet to come. Those who were around back in 2017, 18, or even in 2021, I think bull run looks very different, not like this. Number one. So number two, talking about ETF, we need to understand what does it mean, right? Again, I'm not a subject matter expert, but the thing is that when you talk to a normal retail investor, okay, the one of the largest challenges when it comes to crypto is to buying and holding the crypto, right? And again, as we go into the same discussion about the exchanges, the ease of being on an exchange, a lethargy around it, and then the security around it, and like, yeah, talking, it's saying it's easy that, yeah, my key is my coin, but yes, having a wallet in place and keeping it safe, you can hear thousands of horror stories of how people misplace it, and it happens all the time. So once ETF comes in, you need to think about it that these fund managers with trillions of dollars, they are after the SEC is back for a reason, right? That they know that there is a potential market out there, and they have an amazing infrastructure already in place with marketing and distribution to reach out to hundreds of millions of people with this new product, which they can early in the year when people are rebalancing their portfolio, and with the banking bonuses coming up in the month of February and March, okay, which is generally the trend, that people will have money and the restructuring happens. It will just like with bank insurance products, okay, and the fund managers who market different kind of product, this will become one more product that they have, and I'm sure that they will have earlier marketing activities, and they will waive off some fees and stuff like that. But yes, this is how they are going to drive retail force. Now, what would it do, and what I think will happen? If it gets accepted, the Web3 audience would be like, oh, it's done. Okay, they will think of it like just another random partnership between a project and some large project. So, oh, the rumor was there that now there's a news, let's sell. There will be a sell pressure. Okay, so we might see a dip, and everyone will be like, oh, ETF is done, hype is gone and all. But what would follow is a consistent multi-year buying coming in from those funds, because these are cash spot ETFs, right? So all the demand that they will drive into their funds, even if a fraction of a percent of 1% of their portfolios start driving into Bitcoin ETFs, a 6-digit Bitcoin is not far away. But again, it will not happen like this. It will be a slow grind, okay? Not too slow grind, but I think it will be a consistent grind, okay, toward upwards. And I think this is why I'm constantly saying that the people in the crypto industry, they do not understand the strength of what ETF can bring. I think gold is a prime example that jewelry has been made with gold as a utility for thousands of years, right? But gold, when it became an asset class for investment via CFDs, via ETFs, that's when it started getting the real value. I think in 1970s, an ounce of gold was like $40, right? And then ETFs came, and it went to $2,000 within 30, 40 years. So that, you can count them, you can do the maths. And again, gold doesn't, I mean, mined supply is one thing. You keep finding reserves, but Bitcoin literally has 21 million Bitcoins, and there is no way we can have more. And a lot of it is, by the way, gone. I think one research shows that almost 20-25% Bitcoins are in the wallets that are either lost or with the people who are potentially never going to touch it. So what you really have is like 16, 17 million Bitcoins, and there is a whole lot of world out there.
Yep, that's fascinating. Bilal, curious to get your thoughts on the spot ETFs. And then I know we're getting a bunch of questions from our audiences as well. So we'll move on to some of their questions as well. But Bilal, curious for your take on the impact of the spot ETF approval.
Yeah, of course. I think Rafe has covered pretty much everything. So, opening the door for traditional investments, opening the door of it of BTC being accepted as an asset class, and of course, having perhaps more regulatory clarity than where we stand in today, and then the likes of BlackRock's and other reputed institutions and financial institutions would start to come in, and it's only up from there.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, if I can just add on a couple of things here too. So I think with the ETF, I agree with all of that, right? So the way I break it down is, so one is access. So you've got like the 30 trillion advised market in the US that's about to open up. The second, I think, point that it comes about, but I think people need to appreciate more, is like, once the Wall Street marketing machine starts, from these asset managers, like the way that they've done for other ETFs, suddenly your incentives are now aligned, right? Like the ground truth and the first principles are there, but before there just wasn't any incentive to actually talk about like the benefits of Bitcoin. Then we're going to see that change very dramatically, and you've already seen kind of ads come out from Bitwise and whatnot, right? And I think the third, which Bilal said earlier, which is really important, is the further destigmatization and legitimization of an asset class that is misunderstood. So my bet is that people are going to start with the Bitcoin ETF, but we know that in this industry, price action is content marketing. So once you have a little bit of taste of that, you're going to see what else is going on in the crypto sphere, and it is intellectually a lot of fun as well, right? So we think that people will then kind of progressively want to add on more in terms of either exposure or usage and whatnot. So I do think it's the starting point of something much bigger, and this paradigm shift is about as big as I think people are saying that it is, and I believe that as well. I think the second thing is just on the supply side. Again, the halvening is also coming up. It just so happens that these things are going to be close to each other, because approval is one thing, but it'll take a couple of months for these ETFs to actually open up. So it'll put us around the April timeframe. I think the last thing is, which is more kind of crypto native, but hasn't kind of broken mainstream yet, is, so for a long time, Bitcoin was just that was the one use case, right? Like store of value, just hold it. It's a bit of a zombie chain. But with sort of this whole thing around like ordinals and kind of using sort of the Bitcoin blockchain with OP code, is there going to be enough transaction activity on the Bitcoin blockchain to secure and make this chain secure for the long run? I think that this trend has just started like, last year. But if there are other kind of use cases that start getting appended onto the Bitcoin blockchain, besides just the native crypto asset, that actually dispels a really big existential
move to some of the audience questions. There are actually several questions on altcoins, top 10 altcoins and why. What are some of your top altcoins and why? Some getting rich quickly questions here, but also sort of the opposite, which is, are you guys Bitcoin maximalists? So sort of, do you believe that Bitcoin will sort of reign over all of these, or are you stablecoin maximalists? So curious to get your take on altcoins and also sort of Bitcoin maximalism. Maybe Hassan, if I can start with you, and then we can keep going, but curious for your take on that.
I think maximalism is an intellectual dead end. I don't know why anyone would do it. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it is just, neutral technology. You make of it what you will. I'd say that the dystopian case of blockchains is like, let's say like CBDCs took over the world. Could happen. It'd be very boring. I wouldn't root for like an outcome like that. But again, any entity and actor can kind of use this technology to their objectives. The way I kind of look at the market right now from a kind of pure layer one infrastructure perspective is that so I see it as like a 3-horse race now. So I think Bitcoin again was what it was, but now programmability is kind of appending onto Bitcoin. Then Ethereum is the most important kind of crypto ecosystem in terms of like smart contracts and programmability, and there's still a lot going on there. And then we had Solana as kind of the surprise breakout that happened, earlier last year, which has kind of gone through its near-death experience the same way that Ethereum did back in the day. So I think these are probably the 3 most important ecosystems that I'm keeping an eye on. There's a lot that's happening kind of beyond that, with parallelization and kind of modularity and data availability. Some of this is jargon. Honestly, it really sort of is trying to kind of, solve for higher throughput, lower fees, more expressive programmability without sacrificing liquidity, security, decentralization. And again, it just makes it very intellectually interesting. Some of it makes for very good trades. But as to kind of what has staying power, like these are like the 3 things that I'm focused on.
All right. Rafik, curious for your take.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm absolutely not a Bitcoin maximalist. It has to be I don't think that is. I mean, I think that again was a very 2016-ish, 17-ish kind of a narrative when people were just trying to push it down your throat just by saying that just buy Bitcoin. I don't think that. I mean, I don't see any sane people randomly talking about it anymore. But I think there has to be a balance here as well. The problem with altcoins is that they're very cyclical. Okay, I mean, again, barring the few, like Hassan Bhai said, Ethereum, for example, and Solana has kind of shown to the world that okay, it can stand the worst nightmare. So yeah, I think that's for long than 13, which were in top 10, and they didn't even exist in 2017. And then same in from between 17 to 21, and again 21 to 2023, 24. That's one thing that I mean, you have to be in it properly to maximize it. So yes, there are cycles when you will find new narratives. Like there has been a lot of narrative around the AI, LSDs, RWAs. So yeah, you capitalize on that. But honestly speaking, I don't think something can replace the you need to realize determine what your goal is. You want to maximize dollar value of your portfolio, which personally I do. So I try to create this balance, right? That yes, there has to be some Bitcoin, of course, all the time. And if I had to be, ride on such waves, but then get out of it when the time is over. For a normal person to actually make money out of it. Otherwise, the problem is the same. Yes, you can say that I will hold Bitcoin, one Bitcoin remains one Bitcoin. Yes, fine. But when you ultimately see that, okay, I bought that at $50,000 and now it's worth $17,000, anxiety will come to you. So you have to create this balance, some long term, some short term. Unfortunately, I'm not in a place to take any cryptocurrency names here because that can amount to a financial advice, which we really should not be doing. Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at the narratives this year, I think the liquid staking, AI, and RW, I think these, and of course, ordinals, I think these are going to be the hottest narratives, at least for the first 2 quarters of this year.
Awesome. So, Bilal, are you going to give us an alt perspective on altcoins? What's your take?
I usually follow Rafay's calls and they are very good. So perhaps on this forum, I think again it will be seen as a
You
financial
are
advice.
marking a red mark on my back now.
No, but coming back to the maximalism point as well, I think it's one of the least attractive philosophies in crypto. The belief that any blockchain is fit for all purpose, and all the other blockchains are therefore inherently useless or of no value. I think this is as dumb as it sounds, and I'm a blockchain maximalism. Um, and with regards to alt, I think it's um, I think the whole essence with alts is that they put greed on the table, and it's a casino essentially. So please DYOR and only put in as much as you are willing to lose.
All right. So speaking of losing, Bilal, I'm going to start a question. This one is an audience question. I'm going to start with you here. It seems that everyone on the panel is optimistic about the value of crypto and Bitcoin. I'm curious whether there's any reason to be bearish over the next few months. Bitcoin mining will be halving, and globally we will have reached 93% mined Bitcoins. So, Bilal, is there a reason to be bearish? Is there a different point of view? Is there something to be worried about?
I am bullish. So even if there is one, I'm still bullish. I think as I mentioned earlier, I think all the stars are aligning. A lot of things are coming together, and I think it will not be very wise as an investor to be bearish right now.
All right, Rafi, let me ask you this question in a different way. What keeps you up
Yeah.
at night? What keeps you up at night when you think about crypto?
You want me to really answer that or make up an answer for that?
Either.
And I'm
I
going
won't
to.
know.
Okay. Okay, when it comes to crypto. Okay, so of course, as a crypto founder yourself, obviously, the multiple thing that keeps bothering you is obviously the security of your own project. That's number one thing, of course. But what really bothers me is the short-sightedness of the typical Web3 audience. It's really alarming at times. And I think this is what bothers a lot of people from the outside when they look to crypto and they're like, what's happening there? So that really bothers me. Like, for example, let's say for whatever reason, if tomorrow SEC rejects Bitcoin, you know, and and the trailer of it, we saw it last week that some guy sitting in some random room sent out a report from Metric Sport, and you saw what market did. Like within half an hour, $600 million worth of liquidation because just people like, oh, some random guys whose name we have never heard potentially has said, and it got it got published at the block. And interestingly, just 12 hours before that, the same guy actually wrote the report saying it will get approved. The problem is exactly this, that the domino effect in this industry, yes, the liquidity and everything has improved, but still it's not a Wall Street liquidity. The domino effect in this industry and the effect that people take of such news, especially the negative news, so fast that generally it then takes weeks to come back to, and then there are so many people lurking around all the time to press hard on you and say, oh, I told you so. So that day when the report came out, I just randomly got message from 10 different people saying, told you, but ETF will not get approved. See this report. I was like, okay, thank you very much. But this is, this is something which bothers me a lot, that the seriousness level of the people actually invested inside crypto, inside the Web3, is somehow lacking, at least on a short-term time horizon.